Hello everyone, welcome class to our POSC 100 Module 9, which is focusing on interest groups and political parties. So this video lecture and your assignments for the week are including chapters 9 and 10 of your textbook. So first, let's start off with interest group basics, then we'll talk about political party basics. So a basic definition of an interest group: it is an organization of individuals with a common interest. That's an interest group. That's the basic definition. But the purpose is what really makes them distinctive, because otherwise you could have clubs or just general groups that come together because they're interested in the same thing. But the purpose of an interest group is very specifically to influence public policy. So you put the definition and the purpose together: an organization of individuals who come together with a common interest to impact or affect public policy. I have two videos here that I recommend you watch. They both cover different aspects of interest groups. The videos talk about some of the same concepts that we'll talk about in the video lecture, but they also talk about a couple of additional concepts, and you'll be responsible for all of that information. So make sure that you check out the videos. Use them as additional resources. So when we talk about interest groups, there are some barriers to group memberships, and then there's some benefits that individuals can get. So as far as the barriers to group membership, they're also known as collective action problems. And there's one key collective action problem that we're going to talk about, and that's the free rider barrier. So the free rider barrier is a phenomenon wherein individuals who might benefit from the work that the interest group is doing, they choose not to join, not to participate, because they believe that they'll receive the benefit anyway. Why put in the work when, for example, if an interest group is working on healthcare reform, if it is successful, then I'll benefit from it anyway. I don't have to join the group. I don't have to contribute. I can just sit back, get that free ride, and then enjoy the same benefits that the interest group members enjoy. So that is the free rider barrier, which is one of the most common collective action problems. Now, what interest groups do, because they understand that this barrier exists, one of the things, they try to emphasize several benefits that individuals can receive from group membership to offset that free rider barrier. So there are three types of benefits that individuals get from being members in interest groups: material, solidary, and purposive, or another way for saying purposive is expressive. So a material benefit from group membership is something that you can either quantify. You can put a monetary amount you can attach to it, or at the very least you can you could imagine that this benefit that you're getting has some concrete value to it. So they're tangible benefits that you can actually measure monetarily, even if it's not actually cash. So for example, you may be a member of an interest group that gives you a discount on life insurance policies. Or you could be a member of an interest group maybe that offers free classes for all memberships, or maybe a discounted rate on workshops if you're a member. Or maybe you could be a member of an interest group that gives you hotel discounts. So some really huge interest groups like the National Rifle Association, also AAA, they are a basic, organization. They're a for-profit company, but they also focus on preserving the interests of those, basically any policies that have to do with transportation, the roads, travel, that type of thing. And so both of those organizations contribute. They give benefits, material benefits, to their members. Another key interest group along those lines would be AARP, the Association of Retired People. So they have lots of discounts that you can take advantage of if you join. So those are material benefits. Next, we have solidary benefits. Solidary benefits focus on the social benefits that arise from just associating with other group members who have a similar purpose. So for an individual who is a part of an organization, maybe an environmental organization that they care a lot about, they might get solidary benefits from going to meetings or going out on hikes with other members of the organization, and being able to be around other people who also care about the environment. And then finally, purposive or expressive benefits are more at the individual level. that they represent the feeling of reward or accomplishment that an individual would feel because they're working for a cause that they care about. So if you kind of go from 3 to 2 to 1, you're starting with the feeling inside of the individual, a feeling of purpose and a pride that they are working on an issue that they care about, going up to solidary, which is that social benefit that the individual gets from being in the same space and being able to talk to and work with other people who care about the same things. And then material benefits would be any kind of concrete or tangible benefits that you can put a monetary, you can attach a monetary amount to. So those are 3 important benefits that interest groups try to provide to encourage people to actually join. So when we talk about interest groups, there are multiple types. And I have created a handout here for you, which I am also posting on Canvas. And basically, this handout is very simple, and it just lists the different types of interest groups: business, agriculture, racial and ethnic minority rights, labor, professional, religious, and citizen advocacy cause. So this is just a little visual for you. But what's important to note is for each one of these different types of groups, they can definitely overlap. So you may have a business interest group that also has a professional aspect to it. There can be one interest group can have multiple areas of focus. So when we talk about types of interest groups, business interest groups are concerned with business interests. So for example, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce or Chamber of Commerce in your city, you probably have a Chamber of Commerce there too. So any organized group that comes together to focus on business interests could be characterized as a business interest group. Labor. Organizations concerned with any policies to improve the quality of life, not only for working people, but also for their families. A professional interest group. So as I said, there can be overlap. A professional interest group is any organization that's formed to advance the interests of individuals in a specific profession. So for example, there's the American Medical Association, which focuses on the interests of doctors. There's the American Academy of Criminal Defense Attorneys, very specifically focusing on criminal defense attorneys. And so you can imagine when we talked about those material benefits or the solidary or the purposive benefits, I'm sure that members of the American Medical Association, members of the Criminal Defense Attorneys Association, they need continuing education. There are classes that they may need to take, workshops that they might need to engage in. So it's very possible that being a member of these associations, they can get maybe discounted rates for workshops or for professional ongoing training, that kind of thing. Next, we have agricultural interest groups. These are groups focused on farm-related issues. They could be large-scale agribusiness farmers, or they could be smaller scale, maybe the local sustainable farmers who are you might see at a farmer's market. You also have racial and ethnic minority rights interest groups. So these groups promote the interests of specific racial and minority groups. So for example, you have groups that focus on, you have the Indigenous Peoples Council, which focuses on the rights of Native Americans. You have the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, which focuses on, very specifically on Arab Americans and protecting their rights. So religious interest groups are, there are many of those. And then finally, this category here, citizen advocacy cause groups. They are lumped together in one category because there's really a lot of overlap among these types of organizations, but we can also break them down so you're clear on what each one means. So first, citizen groups are groups that their work focuses on providing benefits to all members of the society. So pretty broad. So for example, if an organization is supporting policies that they believe will benefit the entire public at large, they might be considered a citizen interest group. So the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, for example. So because they are focused on civil liberties for everyone, they could be considered a citizen interest group. An advocacy group is an organization that's working on behalf of people who are unable to represent their own interests, or maybe they're more limited in being able to represent their own interests. So for example, the Children's Defense Fund could be considered an advocacy organization because the members of the organization are working on behalf of children to make sure that their interests are protected. Also, there's the Coalition for the Homeless. So homeless people do have agency, and some of them are able to participate in policy discussions about what is best for them. But you also have many organizations that are considered advocacy groups who work with homeless individuals and are also interested in impacting public policy around the issue of homelessness. And then finally, you have cause groups. These are organizations whose members are focused intensely on a single issue or on a small group of issues. So for example, I mentioned the National Rifle Association. This could be considered a cause group because they're focused very specifically on this issue of gun rights, expanding gun rights at all costs. The NARAL, Pro-Choice America, they would be considered a cause group focused very specifically on protecting choice. So citizen groups, advocacy groups, and cause groups, there can definitely be some overlap. It's just important for you to understand all of these different categories that exist so that when you study interest groups and when you're writing your final paper, you can research which groups are most active with regard to your issue and your topic. All right, so interest group tactics. So what do members of interest groups do in order to influence public policy? So one of the first tactics is called electioneering. And what that is the attempt to affect the election outcomes by either endorsing someone who's an ally of the organization or opposing someone that they would consider an enemy. So electioneering works both ways with regards to deciding who to endorse and who to give financial support to, and then who not to endorse, or who to kind of point out to their members and say, we do not think you should support this individual because they're an enemy or they've voted against policies that would be beneficial for our organization. So either way, that is considered to be electioneering. Now, one aspect of electioneering is this friendly incumbent rule. So when interest groups are trying to decide who do they support and who are they against, part of that calculation is going to be whether or not the person who's already in office, that is the incumbent, whether or not they are somewhat friendly to their organization. And if they are, even if they're somewhat friendly and not necessarily 100% supportive, the interest group is more likely to support a friendly incumbent than they are someone who might be 100% supportive of them, but a newcomer, someone who's trying to get into the office. And the reason for that is incumbents have a much higher percentage rate of being reelected. Once you're already in office, you have name recognition, you have access to more resources, and so an interest group will take all of that into account and figure out who do they want to support, and they are more likely to support someone who's a friendly incumbent than they are to a friendly challenger. Second tactic that interest groups also use is campaign contributions. Pretty self-explanatory. Intentionally making a voluntary monetary gift to a public official or to a political party. So interest groups use these campaign contributions strategically to let those folks who they support, to let them know that they support them and to demonstrate their support. And then we'll cover one more and then I'll move to a new video. A third tactic is called grassroots organizing. So one thing that interest groups may do, they may reach out to not only members of the group, but members of the population who might be interested in their cause, even if they're not officially part of the group. That is considered grassroots organizing because they're going directly to and trying to appeal to the public to get support around a particular issue that the interest group cares about. So I'll pause here, and then the second video will pick up with lobbying.